Nigeria Diaspora Television had the opportunity to interview a great South African diplomat at his residence in Linwood, Pretoria. Dr. Phologane, or rather Ambassador Phologane, thank you very much for allowing us to come and interview you today. Nigeria Diaspora Television is very pleased to be here. We have just had the opportunity to listen to former President of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, at a book launch called Making Africa Work, which he has co-written with Greg Mills, who is the Executive Director of the Brentus Foundation, as well as two other authors. Now, at this book launch, one of the key lessons that he shared with us was that Africa needs to do things, simple things, and do it very well. He used the Singaporean example to aid us and tell us that these simple things must be done properly, and he then talked about leadership and governance being implied. Now, as an ambassador who has lived, well, you lived in Nigeria in the 70s, mid-70s, and you were also ambassador to Ghana, South Africa's ambassador to Ghana during the Rawlings and Kufuor years. What is your take on Africa's economic and political future?
Well, I will take the statement from the one which was made by the late Murtala Mohammed, one of the Nigerian leaders during those turbulent times. He said, Africa has come of age. It is indeed true. We may not realize it, but Africa has indeed come of age. NEPAD, it's just but a philosophical statement which says new partnerships. We are not relying on donations anymore. We can do our own initiatives based on beneficiating our own given abundance in mineral resources, diamonds, oil, you can name them. Agriculture, it's a foregone given. There has been neglect somewhere because of political instabilities. For a number of years now, we have enjoyed political stability. I was in Nigeria during the military regime, which led to the stability that we find now. I was in Ghana just after the passing of the military regime. Military regimes, evil as they are, they had their own contributions because they thought they were removing corrupt civilian regimes. All those permutations have yielded to a large degree the stability that Africa enjoys to date.
Now, Ambassador, flowing from that, we're also given an example, or rather Greg Mills, one of the co-authors of the book, said to us that in countries where there's democracy, that there's been more development, although he then said that Ethiopia and Rwanda are exceptions to the rule. In your view, has democracy in Africa deepened development, in your view?
A violent takeover of government in most cases leads to instability. A democratic transition guarantees peaceful rebuilding, reconstruction of a country. Ethiopia could be an example, Rwanda glaring an example. South Africa was given no slightest chance, but African leaders never gave up on liberating South Africa. When the late President Nyerere was here, there was a complaint about South Africa being called Big Brother. And Nyerere said, but who do you think you are? You cannot be big sisters. We sacrificed our countries for you to be liberated so that you can lead this forward march towards Africa's development. And I think this is what is currently happening. South Africa, in conjunction with the rest of Africa, are moving the African continent. First, we are saying economic development must be premised on democratic stability and viable legal frameworks, functional currencies, but all these things are premised on a democratic development process.
Okay. Now, Ambassador, you know very well the special relationship that has always existed between Nigeria and South Africa, and that reached its apogee under the leadership of President Thabo Mbeki and President Obasanjo. Now, we've seen in the last 5 years, from the Yellow Fever saga, the collapsed church, the TB Joshua Church, the fine that was imposed, the massive $5 billion fine was imposed on MTN Nigeria by the Nigerian Communications Commission. And we also saw the money laundering saga, where the private jet of a Nigerian pastor was allegedly used to bring in $9.5 million to South Africa, which was then seized. And we have just come from a book launch where President Obasanjo says that Nigeria and South Africa have an extra responsibility to ensure that they lead and carry Africa on their back. In your view, how is this relationship? How can this relationship, which has now been described as frosty in the last 5-6 years, how can it be mended, and who should take the first step?
Both countries have dual responsibility. There was a time where personalities corresponded, because the relationship between General, now President Obasanjo, and President Mbeki started before South Africa could be what it is today. And then President Mbeki was the ANC chief representative in Nigeria during Obasanjo's time. Now that friendship continued until South Africa became free and the two of them became presidents. That relationship continued, and it's not my wish. It will still continue in their retirement, and they will guide from behind. They won't interfere, but those who are incumbents will have an obligation, not imposed on them, but to listen to whispers from behind. That democratic process are guarantors towards economic development and prosperity for the people.
Now, Ambassador, just share with us, I know that you like pepper soup, and I know that you were in Nigeria in the mid-70s with the likes of Sese Machinini, and of course Thabo Mbeki was also there, and Mazanele was the one tasked with taking students into Nigeria. Tell us, when you were there, firstly, how long were you there for? What was your favorite Nigerian food, and how did you spend your days, weeks, and months and years in Nigeria?
Well, you would imagine our first dinner in Nigeria as a group of young people, we saw too many glasses of water. And we were wondering why all these glasses and bottles of water. That answer was given by the first taste of food. Nobody asked you to take the water, but your hand went straight.
Okay, very hot food.
Very hot food.
Good introduction.
Very good introduction. So that was the first taste of
Nigeria.
pepper soup.
Okay, pepper soup.
Now, most of us still took the culture of pepper soup back to South Africa. Not that we don't have chili, but the way it is prepared in Nigeria, it gives you another taste of palates. Ghana, there's no culture like pepper soup as it is in Nigeria. Although they have some liking of it, but Nigeria is special when it comes to pepper soup. That is why our correspondence, me and you jokingly, we always say, when we go taste pepper soup, Oga.
Yes.
So I still came back to South Africa with the knowledge of pidgin English.
Yes.
What they call broken.
Yes.
But it makes it simpler to communicate. Whether you are from school or not from school,
Across
in
classes.
Nigeria, you speak pidgin, you are home and abroad. So these are the cultures that we've brought from Nigeria to South Africa. And our friendship is stronger, not only based on Thabo Mbeki or Obasanjo relationship, but it's people to people, understanding of people. Forget about the dismissible xenophobic patterns. Human behavior goes wrong, but it can be corrected with firm and stern educative processes. No violence, human to human contact have always moved the world.
Okay. So finally, Ambassador, I have been in South Africa for about 15 years, and one of the things that I say as a Nigerian professional, which I'm very proud to be, is that Nigerians who are successful are not visible in South Africa. When I talk about visibility, I'm not talking about people working in a bank or in a hotel or in a hospital, because there are many Nigerians who are working across South Africa. In your view, what should Nigerians do to become more visible, the ones who are doing the right things? What should they do?
Nigerians have been here and in the south. Botswana, Zimbabwe, they've been here. Nonetheless, it has been individual contributions which is recognized by communities where you found or you find foreigners, Nigerians being there. Nonetheless, I think this program that you have started, this broadcast, will continue to further elucidate the experience that some of us have had in Nigeria, in Ghana, Some of us have been trained in Ethiopia. Nonetheless, some of these things have not been electronically captured like we are doing now. And I wish to congratulate this effort, and I think it should grow. It's not only me who was in Nigeria, there are many of us who will still give a positive account of how people like Joseph Garba, who were at the United Nations leading a committee against apartheid, played a very important role. Now, some of these things have been left there in the archives. Joe Garba played.
And Dr. Gambari as well.
Leslie Harriman,
yes.
They have played their own meaningful roles in getting the South, not only South Africa, the South, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola, Mozambique, West Africa, at the helm, Nigeria, because it possessed wealth and the military capacity to pull the muscle, played a bigger role. This, for posterity's sake, needs to be documented. History, like the South African students are complaining now, the change of curricula, and it has to do with history. What we are doing now is rewriting history. This history they do not know, but it's up to us to write this history and make it available so that Nigerians are not seen as a nuisance in the street. They are not. They have played a meaningful role in getting the students going back to 1976 and demanding what is theirs. We, the 1976 group generation, we understand their problems because they don't seem to be seeing a meaningful change in the academia, in the social structure. But I think the more we engage in such programs, the more we make further our humble contribution in promoting South Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, Africa working relationship.